you've likely heard the story of the milkshake, right? A fast food chain that wanted to sell more milkshakes. So they went to a strategy consultant company and they said, hey, what we want is to sell more milkshakes. So can you do the market research to help us? And they said, sure. So they did what normal marketing strategy consultants do. They grabbed a bunch of people and they did a bunch of interviews and they asked, right, should it be more viscous, thicker shakes or less viscous? Change the viscosity. Should we add more flavors, right? Should it be not just chocolate and vanilla and strawberry, but should we add the mint and the whatever cookies and cream? And then should we change sizes, right? Is it just too big or is it not big enough, right? And so all this is going on. They're collecting all this data. And of course, as you can imagine, the answer was yes to everything. Like people were saying legitimately, yes, I want more shakes. And other people were saying, I want smaller shakes. And other people were saying, I want it thicker. And other people, I want it thinner. And some people were saying, I want this other flavor. And so the fast food chain went and spent some time trying to implement some of these things. And none of it resulted in more sales. And you're like, that's crazy. So they go back to the strategy company and they say, we like, it's not moving the needle. And they said, okay. So they sent an associate, a data guy, out to one of the chains where he spent the entire day just marking down and tracking the data of who bought a milkshake and when. Just observation for a whole day, and noticed that 40% of the shakes were sold in the morning. I went, okay, that's interesting. So we went back the next day and interviewed the people as they were walking out, right? Interviewed them on why they bought the shake. Now, of course, what a lot of marketing people do when we analyze data like that, we're looking for demographics and behavioral notions that where they match, right? You're trying to do some segmentation and all that. But this wasn't a gender thing. It wasn't an age thing. It wasn't an ethnicity thing. It turned out it was a commute thing. That the people that were buying these milkshakes in the morning were basically buying a breakfast supplement and instead, or an alternative. Instead of getting a croissant or a bagel, which, you know, they were all dressed in work clothing, and none of these folks wanted to drive the commute and get all that kind of breading all over themselves. And so this was, and they all had a decent commute, right? So when you're 30, 40 minutes driving and you want something that will take your time and occupy, be a little work, right? That sucking through that straw, but it's also delightful, it's sweet, and it would keep people full for a bit longer, right? And so they came back and they said, we think we know the job that people are hiring this milkshake to do. They also discovered a second trend. Another chunk of sales was in the early afternoon, right? And it turned out it was moms bringing their kids and using it as a treat, right? Like, oh, you got an A on your paper, or oh, you just got an honor roll, or you just you did a speech at school that was really nerve-wracking. And so they discovered that as an alternative to going to a toy store or something else, they were getting a nice little afternoon treat. So again, you go, okay, it's doing a job. And that's so Clayton Christensen and the guys that did this work came out with this jobs to be done theory, or the jobs theory, which is short, where products, in order to understand how well products are doing and how well you sell them or not, right, you have to understand what people are hiring the products to do. So that jobs theory has been out for a while. And what I want to do is spend just a few minutes migrating that or mapping that to how we sell products and services online. Because when we're selling products and services online, we often forget that our products or services are getting hired for a job to be done. And so our messaging frameworks and the way in which we pitch our products often don't lead us to the kinds of sales and the kind of traction that we want. So in order to explain this storytelling framework to you, what I want to do is tell you a story, and then we'll walk through how it applies, right? So I want you to imagine for just a second that you love bread. And I mean, like, you love bread like nobody's ever loved bread. And while there have been a lot of different bread makers out in the world, there's one bread maker that is the best of all bread makers. It is the greatest bread maker ever. It's not only larger in capacity, but it works faster than everyone else. And it has the ability to create all sorts of breads, not just your regular loaf, but it can do croissants and bagels and whatever else, right? It has molding and it's amazing. But only one company makes it, and they only have one distribution point, one store, and that store happens to be in your town at the top of a hill. Now, you've been saving money. You have all the money you need to buy one of these, and you decide on a Saturday morning that you're going to head up to that store and buy this incredible bread maker. The other nice thing is that you can see from the store at the top of the hill, you can see the road that comes all the way down to right in front of your house, almost as if it was meant to be. And so on a Saturday morning, you wake up and you think, man, this would have been an even better Saturday if I had a hot loaf of bread ready for me. But still, I'm going to go. Today, I'm going to get on that road. I'm going to walk up there and I'm going to buy the bread maker. And so you get out onto the road and you start walking. And you walk for a little bit of time. You're about halfway there when the road stops and you're at a river. It's not a little river. It's not a stream. It's not a brook. It's a big enough river that is like the width of or the length of a football field. That's the width of this river. It's big enough that you're like, oh, I can see at the other end. I can see the road and where it picks up and it keeps going up. But this is not a little thing that you just step over. And so you go, no problem. You're going to step into the river and walk across. But you take 2 steps in and the water comes all the way up to your chin. And you're like, wow, that got deep really fast. So you back up and you go, okay, I'm going to swim in. So you take a little bit of a running step and you go and you take 2 strokes and you're like half a mile downriver. That flow, that current is serious. You get back out. Now you're wet, you're soaked, you're frustrated. You're not sure you're going to be able to get across. You walk yourself back up to the path. You're there at your road at where it hits the river and you're sitting there drying off a little bit when you hear this buzzing sound. You hear it long before you see it. You're looking around and here comes a boat, right? A motorboat just driving right up the river and it gets to you. It stops right at where you are. And the guy says, hey, are you trying to get across the river? And you go, yes, I am actually. He goes, it's $10. So you go into your wallet, you open up your wallet, you grab the $10, you hand it to him and he drives off. And you're like, wait, where are you going? Now you're wet, you're frustrated, you're broke. And so you decide, I'm going to dry off by walking out in the sun. And so you just walk upriver. And you walk upriver without much of an agenda, but you walk upriver about an hour. And when you get an hour away from the path is where you see the bridge. And you're like, oh my God, it's a bridge. You go, you step, you jump on it. You're like, no, that's a pretty solid bridge. You walk across the bridge. Now you're delighted. You're back on point. You know where you're trying to go. You come all the way down the bank on the other side of the river to the road again where you see it. And right before you're about to turn around and go up, you look back and there's a group of people standing where you were 2 hours ago. And they're standing there and some of them are wet and some of them are looking at empty wallets and some of them look really frustrated. And you yell across to the river. You're like, hey, I'm not better than you. I'm not smarter than you. But if you're trying to cross the river, some of you probably tried to walk across the river and realized it got too deep too quickly. Some of you tried to swim across the river. And if you did that, you realized how fast the current was going. I can tell by just looking at some of you holding your empty wallets that you also got ripped off by the guy riding a boat up and down telling you that you could pay to get across the river. Look, I'm not better than you. I'm not smarter than you. But if you've tried to get across the river and it hasn't worked so far, I want you to know I know where the bridge is. Like I'm standing on this side of the river telling you that I was where you were just 2 hours ago. But if you go up an hour, there's a bridge. And if you walk across that bridge and you're trying to go up this path and you're trying to go to the store with the super awesome bread maker, I'll wait here and you can come down and we can go together. That's my storytelling framework, what I call the bridge framework. And I tell you the story because it's an easy way to remember the key components of the framework. See, the first thing we have to do is make sure that we understand people have a destination they're going to. In this case, the motivating driver was a bread maker. It was not a bridge. Sometimes we sell our product or service as if that's the thing people want. People don't want that. They want that as a way to get to where they want. And the first thing we have to do when we message correctly is we have to make sure that we're synchronizing, that we're aligning on destination. Is this where you're trying to go? And very quickly after that, we have to follow up with strategy. Are you trying to go up there on that hill to that store using this road? Imagine if I said, no, I have a helicopter in my backyard. I'm just going to go out, get in the helicopter and fly there. then I don't face a river and I don't need a bridge. So we need to validate destination and we need to validate strategy. But once we understand that, then you notice I spent most of my time talking about the river and the roadblocks. If you timed the story, a majority of the story was spent talking about the river and the roadblocks, not the bridge. See, we tend to, you get to the homepage and right away we're like, bridge, check out this bridge. Look at this bridge, it's steel. This steel is only made in the US. It's by people who only work 6 hours a day, so they have a work-life balance. And you'd be amazed that this is artisanal steel and people etch and draw. And you're like, I don't care. I don't care about all the details of your bridge. What I want to know is, will it get me to where I'm trying to go? The river and the roadblocks are the places where we talk about the pain people have already experienced. See, if you're going to sell a bridge, it's a lot easier to sell a bridge when people, A, know that they need a bridge. Which, by the way, when you wake up on a Saturday morning and you want a hot loaf of bread, you're not thinking, I need a bridge. It's way too early to sell people on a bridge when they're not at the river. In fact, it's a lot easier, tremendously easier, to sell someone a bridge when they're standing at the river and they've already tried to get across. So we build on those three components. You tried to walk across, you tried to swim across, you tried to buy your way across, because what we're doing is developing both that empathy and connection, but also the recognition that you've tried some things. And if you've tried these things, you're by now, as you're listening to it, you're going, oh, yeah, no, I did. I tried to do this. I tried to do that. And then this thought creeps into your head. Wait, are you telling me you know where the bridge is? Just because I can read from your empathy that you've been where I've been, are you about to tell me that you know how to get across? Like, give it to me now and take my money. And we prep people for the bridge when we empathize with their historical pains, what they've already tried, what they've tried to work through. Rivers and roadblocks is where we spend our time, because that's how we qualify that they actually have a job to be done, that they are wanting to buy a product or service that does the job for them. And once they've nodded their head and said yes to, I tried to walk across, tried to swim across, I tried, whatever the three challenges are, and the pain, then we say, here's the bridge. We spent the least amount of time talking about the bridge, right? I mean, yeah, it's sturdy, it can handle me, and then I just walked across, because it sells itself when it's contextualized in the right story. But we didn't end the story there. We ended with, and if you're trying, by reconnecting us to the mission, if you're trying to go up the hill, if you're trying to get back to that store, if you want to buy a bread maker like I do, I'll wait here for you, and you come join me, and we can go together. A sense of community. More than anything else, people want a sense of belonging, connection, what have you. Even if it's simple, right? Like, hey, I want to buy this thing, but I also want to know where I can go to ask my questions. Or, hey, you know what? I want to see how people are using it. Whatever it is, right? We end with that recognition that people want to connect. And it actually, in many cases, helps us sell the bridge. That it's not just that there's a bridge, but there's also a community behind it to support you. That's the bridge framework. And it works because people don't know they need a bridge until they're at the river, because it's a lot easier to sell the bridge when you've already tried to get across the river. Because fundamentally, we spend more time talking about and developing the empathy and trust of pain and river and roadblocks than we do just talking about ourselves. Being like, check me out, I'm a super cool bridge. And because we understand that people want to connect and they need that sense of connection and belonging to get where they're going. That's the bridge framework. I hope it helps you.